Right, concealed hinges, brilliant little invention. They allow your cabinet doors to go side to side, in and out, up and down. Now, I've been using these for over 20 years now, and I started off with a terrible way, and now I've progressed through different ways, and now I think I've came up with the best way. For those who don't know, this is a cabinet hinge. There's a few different brands that make them, but you've got a part of the hinge that goes into the door, so you need a hole 35mm, and then the other side gets screwed to the cabinet. So let me show you in this cabinet that I've knocked up here. So there's a hole in the door that's screwed onto there, and then the other part gets screwed onto the side of the cabinet. Years ago, when I was a little apprentice and I was doing my little jobs for myself, I started off with a 35mm drill bit in a drill. I'd measure and mark my door, and then I'd drill it and stop. I'd check it, I wasn't going too deep, I wasn't bursting through the door. It took forever. So from that, I developed a little jig. I remember an old fella showing me this years and years ago. So I always put my top hinge 100mm down. So this jig is 200mm, so I don't have to measure it. I can just bang it on and I know that's 100mm. So that goes on the edge of the door. I line the centre mark up, so that would stop me having to measure the distance in from the side of the door. So I could just bang that through there. But again, I'd still have to be careful I wasn't drilling too far down. So that was Mark 2, which wasn't much of an improvement. So then I went self-employed. I developed another way of doing them, and I've actually got a video on doing them this way. But I've got this little drill stand, and again I've got a 35mm cutter in there, and this is spring loaded. So I screwed a little fence on there, again 200mm, so it'll be 100mm in from the bottom of the door. I'd put that on the door and plunge down. That was great, but it'd throw up a load of dust, so I'd have to wear a respirator and I'd have to hoover it, and I've come up with an even better way now. When I was preparing to make this video, I'd done a few samples to make sure I got everything right. So I worked out that the distance from the edge of the door to the centre of the hole is 23mm, and then where you screw in the plate is 35mm in from the edge of the cabinet. So what I was doing with this drill stand sort of resembled what a router can do, but a lot less efficiently. A router's much better than that. So I thought, is there a cutter that'll fit into a 1/2 inch shank in a router? And there was. So Trend kindly sent me this one. So I'll put a link to that in the description below, to my Amazon store. It's a 1/2 inch shank cutter, 35mm tungsten carbide, which I have set up in my router. So I've set the cutter in there, and I've set the depth stop. I've also set the fence, so it's the correct distance from the edge of the door to the centre of the bit. And I've also marked on the fence 100mm. So it is a very similar setup to the drill press, but the router has a much smoother plunge, and it'll attach to the hoover. So in this T14 Trend router, I've put on the dust port, and that will eliminate nearly all the dust when I'm drilling the holes. This door here is the back side of one of them wardrobe doors there. Whenever I'm doing repetitive work, I always make a setting out rod. So I've just got this scrap of 1/4 inch MDF, marked out the position of the hinges. Always keep it flush to the bottom of the door. Grab a pencil and just mark where the hinges are going to go. Top and bottom I don't need to do because I've got the mark on the fence of the router anyway. That's all set up now. The fence is set right, the depth stop set right, the vacuum attachment's in, it should be good to go. So this is the most efficient way of drilling these hinges I can find up to now. As you can see, it drilled it great. The plunge was really smooth, drilled a clean hole, and with a little movement backwards and forwards, it eliminated nearly all the dust, which is great in my book. Now that the holes are drilled, I can put the hinges in. Then I get a straight edge, and this will make the hinges square to the door. So it only has to go across two of them, and it'll make sure that they're square. Then get a self-centering drill bit. It doesn't have to be, but this makes it easier. So you only have to spike it with the drill bit, it doesn't have to go in very far. And that's how easy it is to put the hinges on the door. So I may as well show you putting them on the cabinet and then how to adjust them as well. So I've set my combination square to 35mm, as I said before, and then I put it on the edge of the cabinet and strike a little pencil line. So obviously the doors have been on before, but that's what I've done before. Just struck a line 35mm in the centre and down at the bottom as well. So then what I like to do is get my screwdriver loaded up with a screw, get the door. Now usually on wardrobes or kitchens you have a plinth, so you've got room under the door. So I like to rest it on my steel toe cap shoes, and that allows me to lift it up and down quite easily. So I offer it into place and I get it flush to the top of the cabinet. Then I take my screwdriver on the 35mm line, I put it to the top of the hole, because when you let go with your foot, the hinge is going to want to drop down. So if the screw's at the top of the hole, it can't drop down any further. So then with my foot still under it, I'll do the centre hinge. Same again. And then I'll put the bottom one in. And then I check the door is where it should be. And it works fine. And when I'm happy, I'll put the other screws in. I'll show you now how to move the door in each direction. And it just so happens that these hinges actually give you little arrows. Not all hinges do. So if you can see that one, that sends the door that way or that way. That one sends it in or out. And then if you see the screw under there, that sends the door up or down. So the gap down the middle of the doors, if that's too big or not big enough, then we need to adjust the door that way or that way. So I'll show you how we do that. So that screw there, if we turn the screw clockwise, it brings the hinge out, which will close up the gap in the door. So it's closed it up and it won't even shut now. So that's moved it a lot this way. So if I turn it anti-clockwise, that's moved the door that way. So the gap has got bigger. So now if you see the gap down the side of the cabinet, sometimes if you're not put it in the right place, when the door opens it can catch on the cabinet. So if we adjust the back screw, then it'll send the door either out or in. So that sends it out, and clockwise pulls it in. So anti-clockwise sends the door out, clockwise sends the door in. And I'll show you with the door closed. So the last adjustment is the adjustment to take the door up or down. Now all the hinges have got to work in sync for this one. You can't just adjust one hinge up and expect the whole door to go up. So what I mean is I'll send the bottom hinge up a little bit, and then the middle one up a little bit, and then when I do the top one, it'll carry the whole door up then. If you watch the hinge, when I turn the screw, see the hinge go down, hinge go up, down. So if I put that all the way to the top, the door won't move until I do the final hinge. So now the door's gone up about 3 or 4 mil. So I hope you've enjoyed this video and picked up some tips. If you have, please hit the like button. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. And I'll see you next time.